Welcome back to another episode of Rob Sports Center. As you can see by the title and by the thumbnail, today we're going to be breaking down some film on CeeDee Lamb. So we're going to get straight into it. So the very first play, man. So from a number one receiver, we want to see how do you match up with the number one corners on the opposing team. So right here, you get a one-on-one matchup on the outside with CeeDee Lamb against Denzel Ward, who's one of the top cover corners in the NFL. So if you look at it, you see that they haven't matched up one-on-one on the boundary side, meaning the short side of the field. So obviously you see that they're in a single high look. The single high safety obviously is going to be creep more so towards the field side because that's where the biggest receiving threat is at. So right here you get the isolation matchup. So if we got a number one guy receiver wise like CeeDee Lamb, we want this type of matchup because we feel that our guy is more than capable of winning these 9 times out of 10. So honestly, Denzel Ward played this as good as you can play it. I mean, you look at CeeDee, he kind of did like the little hop release, the little hop step, and it just was a perfect pass. I mean, it's kind of really hard and impossible to defend this to a certain degree, especially if a quarterback and a receiver has that understanding of exactly what's going on and the timing of everything. And that's kind of what they do right here. Denzel Ward does a good job at getting his head around to try to track the ball. CeeDee Lamb, Dak just does a good job at placing the ball in a perfect position. And CeeDee Lamb just does a good job at just being able to go up and make a catch against a good cover corner, against good coverage against the sideline. And he was able to make the catch, get 2 feet in, and still be able to try to, just eat up some little extra yardage after the catch. So that just was that was phenomenal execution from the receiver and the quarterback. So right here, man, you see that you got him lined up in the slot. So, back in the day, traditionally, the number one receivers mostly probably used to line up on the outside more so than not. But in today's game, for me to be considered a number one, you have to be able to be lined up in multiple positions, right? Granted, that makes it easier, too, for teams to be able to key in on you and double team you and got to have a situations if they know exactly where you're going to line up. But with CeeDee, you see in the first play, he was lined up on the outside the numbers on the boundary side. Then on this play right here, you see he's lined up in the slot. So he's able to attack outside and inside, outside the numbers, inside the numbers. So right here, you just run a simple slant. He was just able to get inside on the corner. I'm not sure. I think the corner Mike was probably trying to funnel him towards his help, which was the safety. He just didn't want to give up the outside, so he kind of stayed low and underneath to probably try to undercut anything. But Dak just did a good job at just zipping that ball in there, and CeeDee just did a phenomenal job at being able to catch it and get some extra yards after the catch. And two, a lot of receivers don't like going across the middle because of exactly what you're about to get ready to see here. Boom, with the hit that comes with going across the middle. But CeeDee, I feel like in a lot of ways welcomes that. For one, he's a big physical guy. He's not just athletic, he's big and physical, so his body is geared to be able to take the punishment necessary to go across the middle of the field. But then on top of that, he just doesn't have the fear too, and you can't do nothing but respect that. And keep in mind, this was week 1 of the season, by the way, too. So it wasn't like this was a crucial playoff game or whatever the case may be. That just goes to show you the competitiveness that he has and the grit that he has as well. So I feel like just these first clips alone just shows you the versatility that CeeDee Lamb has. I mean, just from the first clip, we've seen him attacking the outside numbers, being able to attack on the outside. On the second clip, we've seen him being able to attack inside the numbers. And then on this clip right here, we just see him being able to contribute in the run game, not just blocking, but being able to, be a ball carrier. So they just kind of run like a jet sweep. Once again, like I said, when you're playing a team like the Cowboys, right, and you know that the main receiving threat for the Cowboys is CeeDee Lamb, defensively, we're trying to figure out ways to minimize him. You are going to have to beat us with somebody else because we're going to neutralize him for the most part. But when you maneuver him around in so many different ways, it makes it so much harder to key in. And granted, I would say, too, the offensive play caller for the Cowboys, give him some credit, too, because he knows that CeeDee Lamb is one of those guys that all that he needs really is the ball in his hand, and he can be effective. So we have to figure out ways to get the ball in his hand, whether that be us passing it to him outside the numbers, inside the numbers, whether that be us passing it to him deep underneath, or whether that be just us handing the ball off to him right here. And you see they did that on the jet sweep, and he was able to just be able to, pick up a first down. Also, he has pretty good vision because, I mean, obviously you see right there, you see that he kind of, showed as if he was kind of going to try to hit it inside, and he just bounced it back outside. The defense probably was anticipating that he was probably going to try to cut in too right there. He just kind of caught him at an angle and was able to outrun him and was able to get the first down. So for those who may not know, I am a Saints fan, and man, my Saints ends up in some of the craziest highlights that you will ever see. Like it blows my mind sometimes when I see the things that happens to them. So right here, man, you got CeeDee Lamb matched up. He's kind of lined up in a tight split. closer to the line of scrimmage, kind of closer towards the out inside of the numbers. And from a DV standpoint, whenever I'm analyzing and I'm looking at that, I know that more times than not, it's probably something out breaking, because the only time that they lining up that close a lot of times is to try to create space for them to go outside, and that's exactly what he does. And he kind of just runs a out route, honestly, kind of like he just runs a 5-yard out route. I'm not quite sure. It looked like they might have been double covering him high low with a Debo right there, and then just keeping Tyrann Mathieu over the top of him. Tyrann Mathieu does a good job at breaking on the ball, but once again, I mean, just look at the fundamentals, man. You know, he's trying to tackle up high, and for one, how do you let a guy as big as CeeDee Lamb just roll underneath you? That's something that you normally see with smaller receivers, like guys like Julian Edelman. I've seen him do that a lot over his career, but a guy like CeeDee Lamb that's that big, how does that happen? But it goes back to what I was saying, too, that when you got a guy like CeeDee Lamb, man, your whole objective is to just get the ball in his hands. Like, if you notice that a lot of what we've seen isn't really anything just attacking super vertically down the field. It's just really just finding ways to try to creatively get the ball in his hands underneath and allow him to do what he does with yards after the catch. And that's no different than here. Like I say, he just run a pretty much a simple out route. He kind of uses his body on a Debo. Debo's trying to get physical with him. He kind of just uses his body with leaning on him and being able to create that separation legally without it being a push off. And he's able to just create the separation. Dak is able to put the ball on him in good positioning, puts it right there in between he put it. I mean, he kind of had to jump up for it too, but he still was able to make a play afterwards. Just great execution once again from CeeDee Lamb. So right here, once again, kind of similar to the Saints play, you got him lined up in a tighter split. He's lined up kind of right there on the numbers. Once again, like I said, from a corner's perspective, what are you analyzing? You're analyzing, okay, if he's lining up this close, we're anticipating that it's probably going to be something out breaking, in which he runs a double go. He just runs an out and up. But once again, like I say, man, this was pretty good coverage initially from the corner. He did a good job at just really being able to stay in position. Once again, right at the release. I always try to make sure that I put this in there for my younger receivers, if you're watching this too, with just knowing that whenever you're making your moves, you don't have all day. It's a split second that you have. You know, you don't have all day like you have the luxury in 7-on-7 or in 1-on-1 drills when you don't have a defensive line rushing. But when you factor that into game situations, you need to be very precise and very effective in what you're doing. So you see that when he's making his move coming off the line, he's attacking vertically. He's not just standing stationary. Now, the corner does a good job at not falling forward initially, but then you also see that CeeDee does a good job at being active with his hands and being able to knock the corner's hands off of him. So right here, we're going to look at it right there. Boom, knock the corner's hands off of him. He sends the out route. Well, he runs the out route as if he's going to run out, and he kind of does it up. And when he runs, so like I say, initially the corner was on top of it, but when he runs, fakes the out, boom, and he goes up, now he's able to stack the corner, and now he gets the separation that he needs. But Dak does a good job at kind of just trying to put it on his back shoulder, obviously because the safety over the top. I know some people might say, oh, man, that was an underthrow. Well, if he overthrows that ball and try to put it over the top, he's probably going to get CeeDee's head knocked off, or it's probably just going to go out of bounds. So you got to be able to try to put it underneath, and the corner was just out of position, never really was able to, just get his, when he got his head back around, he pretty much was already out of position, and CeeDee just did a good job at just being able to readjust to the catch, come back shoulder, boom, make it, and then once again be able to possibly eat up some more yards after the catch. So right here, once again, you have CeeDee Lamb matched up on the outside, one-on-one coverage. And like I said, man, that's the true signs of a number one receiver, that when we get those one-on-one matchups on the outside, can you consistently win those? And we've seen that so far from breaking down film, that he can win those matchups on the outside. And he pretty much just beats this corner from the get-go. He was very, like I say, it really looked like he didn't really give him too much of a maneuver off the line. Let's take another look at that again to see. Yeah, he really didn't. Honestly, man, it really was just kind of what you would consider probably a speed release, which he didn't just get upfield vertically full speed, but it wasn't necessarily like he did a move. It's not like he really attacked his outside shoulder, his inside shoulder. It really was just, like I say, man, the corner opened up his hips kind of early, and CeeDee just got vertical and was able to get over the top of him and stack him. Once again, Dak does a pretty decent job with the ball placement, because you got to look at the angle from number 31, the safety that's over the top of it. So you got a safety that's over the top. right? And safety obviously is reading Dak eyes. So once he sees that Dak locks on over to CD, he starts to kind of break towards CeeDee Lamb. So obviously, depending on the angle from which Dak was looking at, that kind of was a decided factor in him throwing the ball. But thankfully, when you got a guy like CD, he's able to adjust to whatever ball you're able to throw, whether it's a perfect pass or whether it's an imperfect pass. And then he just does the CeeDee Lamb things once again, just being able to create opportunities with the ball in his hand with yards after the catch. But like I said, man, it's not like he's attacking. Everything is just getting so vertical. I mean, this was a vertical route for the most part, but it's not like it's just blowing the top off of a defense. It's honestly him being able to catch the ball and just being able to make guys miss, make guys take bad angles, and just being able to capitalize off of it. So right here, man, we have one of my favorite situations, man. A gotta have it moment. You got a 3rd and 14. That's a 3rd and forever, man, which is very, very hard to complete, and especially in the National Football League. But once again, man, who is your go-to guy for the Dallas Cowboys? And that's CeeDee Lamb. As you can see that he was lined up in the slot. So it looks like Pittsburgh is playing a zone defense. I'm not quite sure exactly what it is. It's probably like a cover 4. So it looked like they had a guy over the top of CD and a guy underneath CD. But once again, he just does a good job at being able to find that little soft spot in those little cushions in those zones. And Zach does a hell of a job just being able to kind of thread the needle on this pass right here, throwing it in the zone in between 2 defenders and against the sideline. And CD just does a good job at being able to go up, high point the ball, make the catch, and not only make the catch, be able to get both feet in bounds to secure the catch, to move the sticks for a first down. And like I always say, man, any receiver can catch a perfectly thrown ball in the perfect situation. Now I want to see, can you catch a perfect thrown ball in a not so idealistic situation such as this one right here? And CD shows that he has the ability to do that. All right, so right here, man, once again, man, you just see the explosive playmaking ability that CeeDee Lamb has right here. So you see him being a little show off right there, man. You see him being able to just make the one-hand catch and not losing stride while making that one-hand catch. He was able to just stick his hand out there, secure that catch, tuck it in, and just be able to keep running. Once again, man, he just does a good job at, being able to create opportunities after the catch. Now, one of the things we always talk about when we talk about dominant players on the football field is what can you do on your own? You know what I mean? What can you do once the ball is in your hands? Do you go down immediately, or do you fight for every blade of grass, fight for extra yardage? And CeeDee Lamb is the embodiment of that. Obviously, we've seen him doing it on clip after clip, and right here once again we see him doing it as well, just being able to make guys miss. You look at him coming across, makes the one-hand catch, boom, got the guy coming in right here, makes him miss, boom, such sloppy pursuit angle, makes him miss, will make 2 guys miss, and being able to gain much more yardage than what he should have gained initially. All right, so right here, man, once again, you got CD lined up in a slot. You got an idealistic matchup that you will want, which that creates those mismatches. Whenever you can maneuver a guy around the offense, outside the numbers, inside the numbers, in the backfield, as the Z receiver, then you create those possibilities, these type of possibilities with mismatches with getting him lined up on the linebacker. And obviously he didn't have a lot of room to maneuver, but they still made do. So Dak actually threw this ball as perfect as you really can throw an out route, because the thing about an out route, right, especially when there's one going like that towards the sideline, mostly every defender, once they realize what route it is, they are going to try to jump that route, just like this linebacker does right here. Because guess what? We know one thing as defenders. If I jump this route, and even if I don't get the interception, look at where the ball is going to be placed. So it's going to lead to him going out of bounds regardless, and I have to help over the top. So every defender is going to try to jump this route. So if you underthrow this route, let's just say hypothetically speaking, if you put this ball on the back shoulder of the receiver, that's an interception, and more times than not, it's going the other way for 6. So he does a good job at just leading it to the sideline, and CD just does another good job too at being able to make a difficult catch in a tight space, and also being able to get both feet in, and having a receiver that can do that. Those type of guys are the guys that you want in the red area, because everything is much more tighter there. So you don't have a lot of field to work with in the red area. So having a guy who knows a sense of space and being able to make those plays in small, tight windows, those are guys that you want to have when you're going into the red area. All right, so once again, man, you got CeeDee Lamb lined up on the outside. So, like, what did I say when I was talking about number 1 receivers, right? We want to see how can you match up against the opposing team's number 1 corner? So you got him matched up on the outside with Ward. Once again, you got a boundary side matchup, meaning the short side of the field. And more times than not, on the boundary side is where the isolation matchups are going to happen, because most of the time, defenses are going to be adjusted to wherever the field side is at, because that's where the biggest receiving threat is most of the time. So right here, he just get a one-on-one matchup, like he kind of ran a comeback route. I mean, going towards the out of bounds. Ward honestly played this as good as you can. Obviously we can't see down the field, but you just looking at how close he was, and you could tell that. So that tells you that either if he did get beat, he had great recovery speed to be able to close the distance, to be able to contest the throw, or he just did a good job of just sticking with him throughout the whole route to be able to contest the throw. But at the end of the day, CeeDee Lamb once again makes a phenomenal catch against the sideline, being able to get both feet in to secure the catch. I think it was shy of a first down, but they still able to make the catch. And once again, just like I said on the previous clip, man, these type of plays are the plays that you're going to need in the red area, because you don't have too much field to work with. So you have to be able to maneuver in tight spaces and make difficult catches, and CeeDee Lamb obviously can do that. So right here, this play right here is exactly what I was talking about on the previous two clips, with being able to maneuver in those tight spaces in the red area, because everything is so much more compact now. The threat of over the top, which right here you still have it, but for the most part, the threat of over the top, it minimizes with the tighter the field gets. So right here, you just have CeeDee Lamb matched up on the outside. He just does a good job at, for one, selling this route. And in the process of selling this route, they got the safety coming over the top, just kind of takes I wouldn't even necessarily say a bad angle, because he was trying to come downhill and make a play on the guy coming off, the tight end coming off the line of scrimmage. Right there, you see, the tight end that was coming in motion. And CeeDee just did a good job at, honestly, man, just really attacking the corner from the get-go. You look at him, he comes off the line of scrimmage, he kind of just gets a free release. The corner doesn't get physical with him, and once again, he just does a good job at attacking leverage, right? He knows that he wants to go inside. So if I want to go inside, I'm going to attack outside shoulder and be able to get inside, which eventually led to him being able to make the corners, make that corner and that safety collide into each other for an easy touchdown. Probably one of the easiest touchdowns that he gonna get, honestly. All right, so once again, you got a one-on-one matchup on the outside, on the boundary side, with CeeDee Lamb, and it's just a simple pitch and catch, man, that we've seen pretty much throughout the whole time breaking down film on him, man. It's just he's able to maneuver in tight window situations, and really, and he's very good at being able to adjust his body to make these difficult catches, right? When you look at a lot of these catches that CeeDee is making, it's not like it's a lot of separation within those catches. He is just making very tough catches, such as this one right here. It's really just like, it's just a simple 9 route, just a simple route going up the field. The corner didn't really get physical with him, and the corner really was right there with him. So this was as good as coverage as you can play, honestly. And I wouldn't even necessarily say that it was just the most perfectly thrown ball. It was a good ball placement, I'm not going to even lie to you, but I think that if the corner might have was able to get his head around a little quicker, he probably could have made a play on it. Nevertheless, CeeDee just did a very good job at, like I said, man, being able to adjust his body to be able to make that difficult catch. And like I said, once again, look at the lack of space that he has, because the sideline is right there, right? And obviously, more times than not, whenever throwing that route, the quarterback is going to try to put the ball in a position to where the safety that's over the top can't either make a play on the ball or even be able to just level CeeDee Lamb whenever he catches it, to possibly lead to a pass breakup. All right, so we gotta have a situation, man. Obviously, you know, this was one of my favorite situations. So you got a 3rd and 4. You pretty much know as a defense that anything that they do, any routes they run, for the most part, is going to be at the sticks to try to gain the first down. CeeDee just kind of runs. It looks like really just a deeper slant, opposed to a post route. It looked like more of a deeper slant, and he didn't run it as wide. He kind of had it. He ran it a little bit more narrow than typically you would, that you would run it. It more so kind of really looked like an out route, if any, or in route. I mean, if anything, more so than a post or a slant. But once again, you just see the contact balance, man, to be able to want to come across the middle for once, because more times than not, these are going to be the hits that you're going to have to endure. Boom, safety come downhill, makes a hit. He's able to stay on his feet and run for an additional, maybe 1 or 2 yards. So once again, like I say, man, you just see the physicality. It's not a lot of, when watching his game, it's not a lot of finesse. It's not a lot of pretty. It's a lot of physicality on being able to run after the catch, make guys miss, and also being able to make tough catches, make those catches in tight coverage, similar to this one right here, and then similar to a lot of the other ones, and being able to know that, okay, when I make this catch, I'm going to have to be able to take a hit. And being able to just make the catch and brace for the hit and being able to bounce off of it and run for an additional 1 or 2 yards. All right, so right here, man, we got two of my favorite situations. We got a red area possession, and we got a gotta have it situation of 4th and 1. Cowboys are going for it. Obviously, you see CD's lined up in a tighter split, meaning he's closer to the line of scrimmage, more so kind of on top of the numbers, inside the numbers type deal. So as a corner, you pretty much understand that whenever they're lining up that tight, more times than not, is to create room to go out, which he did right here. He ended up running a corner route. Man, like I say, man, once again, the corner kind of like he had inside leverage, was not trying to give up the inside. CD did a good job at attacking that space, being able to kind of fake as if he was going to attack. So basically attacking the inside shoulder to go outside. So when he attacked the inside shoulder right here, the corner obviously is going to shift to try to stay over the top, and he just bounced it back outside for a wide open corner route. Now, I don't know if you guys remember early on, I said one of the ways that we judge, guys, like say, for instance, we're going to just say receiver, being that we breaking down film on CeeDee Lamb. One of the things we look at is what can you do on your own, right? And one of the things that you will always hear me say, can you play off script? So on script means that when everything goes idealistic. So say, for instance, how this play right here broke down. So when they ran this play, they didn't anticipate that what happened was going to happen. They thought that this play was going to, when they practiced it and it went the way that it was supposed to have went, they thought that that's the way that it was going to go in the game. And unfortunately, that's not always the situation. So what can you do when everything breaks down? So CD does a good job at just being able to create something out of nothing. And pretty much that's been a tale of a lot of what I've seen him doing, being that he's the main target. It's kind of just been him getting it out the mud. And that's why I said that bringing Pickens over is going to be an addition, because now he doesn't have to try to take a lot of stuff into his own hands to be able to make a play. But he just does a good job, man. Like I said, once again, making something out of nothing, man, being able to just reverse field and being able to just, make good of what he could from a play. So it's almost like what you would hear Coach Belichick talk about when he hear players saying, he said one of the things that always would burn him up was when guys would say, well, I was just trying to make a play. He's like, well, try making a good play. Don't make a bad play even worse. He just did a good job at taking a play that was bad, and possibly could have even been worse, and just making it into a very, 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 very good play. Once again, man, just phenomenal with the ball in his hands, explosive player, just being able to just create a lot of opportunities that other receivers just couldn't create, via his speed, his vision, his contact balance, being able to run through arm tackles. Man, it's a lot that CeeDee Lamb brings to the table. So right here, you got another guy to have a situation and another red area possession. So you had CeeDee Lamb. They were lined up in a bunch formation. So they were just trying to create confusion. It looked like they did end up creating confusion to be able to get a matchup one-on-one. But then again, the Panthers could have just been playing in man coverage as well. So, man, once again, CeeDee Lamb just does a phenomenal job. And going back to what I've said about the red area, being that you have to be able to, make catches in tight coverage, and you have to be able to have a sense of space and being able to maneuver around in those tight spaces, which we see CeeDee Lamb does have that. But once again, man, he just does a good job. He has phenomenal body control to be able to adjust his body to the passes that are thrown, whether they overthrown, underthrown, or whether they just thrown perfectly threading the needle type throws. He does a good job of just being able to adjust to all of those accordingly. So right here, once again, obviously, it also becomes harder for quarterbacks to throw down here as well, because like I said, everything becomes congested. So Cooper Rush kind of just puts it out there, and I think it was kind of intent to be a back shoulder throw, but he kind of really underthrows the ball, and CD just does a phenomenal job at just being able to readjust, falling to the ground, and make the catch for the touchdown. So right here, man, once again, this is why I say that having Pickens is going to be a benefit for CeeDee Lamb. So you see right here, you have CeeDee Lamb double covered. Those are two guys that's covering CeeDee Lamb. So you remember one of the clips that we were looking at when the Commanders had 5 red jerseys over there and there was only 1 white jersey, which was CD. This is almost similar to that too. You have 2 red jerseys up against 1 white jersey. The goal was to take away the number 1 option, which was CeeDee Lamb. And still, when you have CeeDee Lamb, you have the option to be able to say, oh, he's down there somewhere. Let me just throw it up and he's going to go over there and make a play. And keep in mind that this is against a pretty good cover corner, Jamel Dean. Also, this is against a corner who's a bigger guy too. So he's able to go up against a guy who's bigger, just as big and just as athletic, and just be able to make a play, man. For one, that was a pretty good throw too from Cooper Rush. I mean, you got to give credit where credit's due. He did a good job at just kind of placing it right there in that pocket right there. And then CD just did a phenomenal job at being able to track the ball and being able to go up in double coverage to make a catch. So right here, man, final play, you got CeeDee once again matched up on the boundary side, one-on-one on the outside, and he just once again goes to work and just cooks number 27. So once again, to my younger receivers, what do I always talk about? Making your moves, but getting upfield. So he does that. He makes his move. He looks like he's trying to attack. So what he does is he look as if he's going to attack the try to make it as if he's going outside. So you see when he attacks the outside shoulder of the corner, we're gonna go back and look at it. So he kind of just does like a jab step to the outside shoulder of the corner. And once again, just almost off natural instinct, the corner is going to kind of shift to where he thinks CeeDee is going. And that just gives him a release that's inside. Now, granted, in this situation, I'm pretty sure the corner saying to himself, well, I do have inside help from my single high safety more times than not. So that's probably why he was like, okay, I'm just going to try to jump outside. But when you look at the sideline, I mean, he doesn't have much space to work with, CeeDee Lamb, I'm saying. So, you probably would have wanted to kind of try to stay over the top of that just a little bit better. But he's just able to, jab to the outside and just easily be able to stack him. And once he stacked him, he kind of just has him beat. So once again, I'm not quite sure if him and Cooper Rush just wasn't on the same page in terms of this throw, because, I mean, you look at it from right here, boom, he's on the top. That's pretty much supposed to be a touchdown, obviously. You know what I mean? And once again, too, what he does a good job at is utilizing the hands. Once again, like I said, as a receiver, your hands are to be used more, not just for catching, but also hand fight. So once again, once he makes the move, boom, he just does a good job at kind of being able to swim. And a lot of times, too, using those hands to fight, it also allows you really to be able to stack the DBs. If you look at it, right? Let's take another look at this. When you look at it right here, boom, and he uses those hands, it actually allows you more times than not to be able to stack them. But then also, too, it prevents them from being able to get hands on you to try to slow you down and slow down the timing of the route. So it's just so much good with being able to utilize your hands. Once again, he makes the difficult catch, being able to adjust his body, ball skills for one, and just being able to adjust based off of the catch. You see him right there. He didn't necessarily kind of just push off, but he just gave him a little bit more of an encouraging nudge to trying to get him out the way to be able to create the separation. He makes the catch. And then once again, man, just is able to make some yards, eat up some yards after the catch, doing what we've seen him do play after play, making the catch and just being able to, maximize on the yards gained after the catch, man. So like I said, man, CeeDee is as complete of a receiver as you can want. I mean, he can hit you on outside the numbers. He can hit you inside the numbers. He can be utilized in jet sweeps. We've seen him do that. He has pretty good vision as a ball carrier whenever the ball is in his hands to be able to make plays. We've seen that on the jet sweeps and things like that, and screen routes, just being able to read his blockers and be able to maximize on what he can do. And like I said, man, being that they bringing Pickens over now, I like that, because when you look at what CeeDee was doing over the course of this year, man, a lot of it is what I say, getting it out the mud, having to just do things that, do more than what you would like for him to do. It's just not trying to put too much stress onto him and trying to make it a little bit more easier, for your team as a whole, because everybody knows the offense runs through him. So if we can take him away, then we have a good chance of beating the Cowboys. But now when you got another dog on the outside like George Pickens, a lot of that kind of goes out the window. So I'm interested to see how that plays out over the course of this upcoming season. But, man, if you guys enjoyed this video, do me a big favor, man. Smash that thumbs up button. Also, if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. And when you subscribe, make sure that you got that notification bell on. That way you be notified every time I upload, because as you can see, I'm dropping day after day after day, so you don't want to miss it. And I'll see y'all in the next video.